You know, every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. They know what I'm going to say. And even if I get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world.
I think what you're trying to ask is why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture. I think that's what you're asking. I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean, and I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I said this before in this same interview. I think at some time before, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
I am your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates, and welcome to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. We are the return of intelligent radio as we ensure the free flow of opinions and push the envelope on the questions America's afraid to ask in the mainstream media. Good morning to all the intellectual outcasts out there. As usual, I have a couple of special guests. We are family now, not only with the guests, but the intellectual outcasts. Y'all know this is our show all together. And so I keep bringing these wonderful guests black on the show, as I like to say, because they serve the purpose. You know, we are the best in the world, again, at hard conversations on race, sex, and culture. And so sometimes, hey, when somebody do it real good, we keep bringing them back. So I got Brother DUANE Draughon back on the show, as well as Dr. Curtis Jasper, as we call him, Dr. Kurt. DUANE, I'm going to start with you because you always hit high numbers anytime I bring you on the show, even though this was a last-minute request. I done woke this brother up, and he down for the call, y'all. So what's up, King? Thanks for being with us this morning.
Say the question again.
Oh, I just said, I say, well, I done woke you up. I say, thanks for being with us this morning, Kings. I was just kind of saying thank you for being with us. And then, you know, if you will, go ahead and give a little bit of your background. You literally wipe the little stuff out your eye. I don't even know if you had a chance to.
Hey, let me tell you something, Montoya. This subject is right down my lane because I really get up at 4:30 every single morning. So I have a routine that I do every single morning, at least 4 to 5 days a week. So when I told you, that means I just didn't touch my phone. I was already up at 5, and then I just lay back down. I said, this is Saturday. Let me lay back down with my wife and just chill in the bed and not think about work and do any work. But no, having a great time. And background is I've been in business pretty much my entire grown-up life. I'm 47 years old, and I've only had 2 jobs, and the 2 jobs has lasted 2 years combined. So within that, my whole lifespan has been an entrepreneur. So I've seen the highs, I've seen the lows, and I learned that the lows, you have to do some things to get your mind in order to maintain those lows when you get down there, because they're only temporary and you can't let those lows take you out. So that's why when you called and said, hey, you want to be a part of it? I'm like, I'm game. I was like, no, I got something to do today, but I'm game. Let's do it.
Hey, man, you always come through in the clutch like that. And again, with your background, I knew it would be perfect to have you on this show. Without further ado, Dr. Kurt, as I like to call you again, formerly Dr. Curtis Jasper, for anybody out there who's probably heard of this brother. He's a TED Talk amongst many things. But if you will, Dr. Kurt, if you will, give people a little bit of your background. Say hello, DUANE, and hello to the intellectual outcasts out there.
I'm happy to do so. What's going on, Brother DUANE, Brother Montoya? Thanks for having me back. I appreciate these early morning Saturday calls. I'm Curtis Jasper, born and raised in Chicago, been in Atlanta for 23 years. I serve as a psychologist, mostly teaching, consulting, serving. I'm the CEO of I Am International, which is a global personal development firm, where I work with a number of high achievers on how to maintain emotional and relational stability so they can continue to be successful in their chosen fields. And so I'm here, man. Let's get into this. Can a morning routine help save your life? I'm ready, y'all.
Nah, absolutely. And so for anybody out there listening, again, I go by the name Black Socrates. We always try to take the Socratic approach, ask a bunch of questions to see if we can get to some answers. Hopefully you get some seeds that you can pick up on. Please share this show for anybody that has the link. And this morning's discussion question specifically, suicidal to high achiever. We're spanning the whole spectrum, if you will. Suicidal to high achiever. Can a morning routine save your life? For anybody that saw the early promotions in the week, just wanted to highlight this. The brother I actually got the idea to do the show from wasn't able to make the show this morning, had some things come up. And so DUANE, again, I literally called him just less than 40 minutes ago and said, hey, man, can you fill in again, just knowing, as he said, with his background, been in the entrepreneurship game, and I can only imagine the highs and lows of that. I always say I'm more hustler than entrepreneur, more hustler than businessman, and this brother's trying to transform me into an actual businessman. I don't know if I'll ever necessarily accept the title, but I've definitely been through, to a degree, some of those high and lows. But I will say personally, as an adult, never, if you will, on the end of the suicidal, if you will, and I'm still on the road to the higher achiever, if you will. Again, just kind of giving a little bit of my background, I will highlight that as a middle schooler one time, I played around with some suicidal thoughts, but mine was very minimal, never got into, this is a new word that I just learned, suicidal ideation, if you will. Never really fully got into it. I think at the time may have just been, the time I kind of thought about it or played around with it, again, I was maybe 5th grade, 4th grade, like real young, just some dumb stuff. And literally my mind was wrapped around like whatever had happened, I almost wanted to hurt my parents' feelings. So it was kind of super silly, but I do recall that even from that experience, because I literally called myself getting a knife and all this kind of stuff and going to take it to my wrist. I remember going through that. And I don't remember it as a traumatic situation again, because I didn't go really down the thoughts, now that I've even did some research for this conversation this week. So I never really went down that path, if you will. But I remember it stuck with me so well that I really was attuned when any of my peers for the rest of my life wanted to play around with suicide, if you will. Like, and I would say, fortunately, I've been able to help several friends in my lifetime avoid that situation. I've also lost a close friend in the past year to suicide, and someone else that was slightly part of the mental dialogue community. So again, been able to actually like literally go into an actual preventive, have to call the police type situation to help some people, and then unfortunately have lost, and I'm pretty sure anybody out there listening may have lost someone along those lines. So we are in a sense starting in a somber place, but a very necessary conversation that we have to have. Again, we are good at these conversations, so again, bear with, in a sense, this initial hour as we kind of talk about, if you will, suicidal ideation. So instead of necessarily starting how I typically start, which is what was your first thought when you heard the question of Dr. Kurt, if you will, I'm just going to ask you to highlight, again, that was a new term for me. Obviously, you're in the field. This is an old term for you, but just to, if you will, explain suicidal ideation, if you will, before we go to the first break. Just a real short explanation, and then we're going to go to break, and we'll continue the conversation after the break.
Yeah, so suicidal ideation is pretty, general in the terms of, just toiling with the idea of suicide, right? Often when we talk, and let me be clear, although I'm a psychologist, I'm not a suicide expert for a number of reasons. You can imagine that this comes up quite frequently in my field at different levels, right? And so ideation is that the idea of suicide, and that, quite frankly, and you won't hear this publicly a lot, It's pretty common. It's more common than not. And so what's wrapped around that is the overwhelming pain that a majority of us experience, and the mind goes to the idea of how can I relieve the pain, right? And depending on the burden and how long you've been carrying it, the idea of, well, maybe it would be better if I'm not here, right? I've tried a certain amount of things, breathing and journaling and talking to folks. The pain is still unbearable. Maybe my last resort would be to remove myself. And so what I find is helpful is just having this topic, this conversational topic, just as common as we do pop culture and sex and drugs and music, right? We have to stay in the conversation. So in a sense, that's suicidal ideation.
Now, I appreciate you for explaining that. We are going to go to our first break, and we will come back and continue this conversation. Suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? We'll be right back. You're listening to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, where all I ask is that you think.
What happens when your customers call your business and you're too busy to answer or call them back in a timely manner? You lose that business. Shockingly, 61% of inbound calls go unanswered. But fear not. TCHmedia.ai is here to change the game. We specialize in capturing, nurturing, and converting your prospects into loyal customers. With our state-of-the-art communication solutions, no interaction will be left behind. When you miss a call, we've got you covered with automatic, engaging texts that keep your prospects connected and eager to choose you over your competitors. Don't let potential customers slip away. Make the smart choice with TCHmedia.ai and skyrocket your conversions today. TCHmedia.ai is here to change the game. Change the game.
And Boss's death comes on the heels of new CDC data showing suicide rates have risen for Black and Hispanic men between 2000 and 2020. ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton joins me live now to talk more about this. And we should note that this topic can be triggering for some. Dr. Sutton, thank you for coming on. What does this data released last month tell you?
There's some concerning numbers, Diane. One of the reasons that we're seeing, or one of the things that we're seeing that's very concerning, is that the rates of death by suicide among Black men and other men of color has significantly increased, although the rate of diagnosis of mental health disease is statistically lower compared to other groups. And I think the reasons behind this are simply a lack of diagnosis or an underdiagnosis, and reasons why we need to put more action and activity into helping others get the mental health treatment that they need.
Is there any sense of what's contributing to this and what's contributing to the difference and the changes that we're seeing here?
You know, while each and every personal case is different and nuanced, there are some factors that are shared within the community of color. For example, the lack of access to care, the social stressors and effects of systemic and structural racism, the lack of cultural competence and diversity within healthcare, and then most importantly, the stigma that comes with the diagnosis of a mental health disease. It can sometimes be life-altering, and it can affect people negatively in terms of their professional and personal life.
So what happens when something like this happens to a public figure? You know, in the past decade, a number of well-known Black men reportedly died by suicide. So what kind of an impact does that have then on the communities that look up to them?
I think first and foremost, awareness and understanding. As Matt said, sometimes you just simply never know. And it's more reason why we need to reach out to others around us and ask if they need help. Diane, there's often this common idea that if you ask someone if they have a sense of self-harm or thoughts of self-harm, that you might push them over the edge. But studies and research have shown that simply asking someone these important questions has been shown to significantly decrease the risk of death by suicide. So it's important to ask. You never know unless you do that.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates, along with special guest Dr. Kurt, as well as my brother DUANE DRAUGHon. Dr. Kurt, I'm going to start back with you. Just any thoughts as that cut just kind of brings home the fact that, unfortunately, and a lot of this has been since the pandemic. Well, prior to the pandemic, there was the last decade. We'll hear some more data a little later in the show that suicide, quite often, just to give some little historical context, within our Black culture, if you will, we mostly in the past, I think we've thought of it as kind of something that in a sense, white men did or white women did, if you will. And unfortunately, there has been a significant increase, and people are starting to look at, in particularly what's happening in our community. So just any thoughts in reference to some of that historical context and what you heard in the cut?
Yeah, and I think it was mentioned in the clip that you played, Montoya. Most of this is propelled by systemic racism, right? Racism-related stress and anxiety, particularly during COVID. I mean, we were stripped away, not only from our loved ones, but our sources of incomes, and we were forced to confront ourselves in areas that many of us never have before. And that kind of pushed all of us over the top. To the degree, and which top is debatable, but it nonetheless pushed us over the top. And so when we talk about things like the pandemic and being isolated, that's the baseline is systemic racism. Let's be clear, right? We follow the money, and that trickled down to one of the most vulnerable groups, and that's black people and people of color, particularly black men. You figured if the average black man uses his body and exchanges his time for money outside the house, and that is stripped away by no fault of his own, and he's not able to feed himself or his family, that could provide a downward spiral that lots of people have found themselves confronted with.
It makes a lot of sense. Dwayne, any thoughts on the cut or anything that Dr. Kurt had to say?
It's, and I was actually talking to Isabel about this yesterday. It is extremely hard for mostly any business person to pull away and say, hey, I'm going to do something different because your family doesn't understand or your community doesn't understand. But it's extremely hard for a black person to pull away because there's really no help. I was reading a book, her name will come to me in a few minutes, but she's the lady who did the 5-second rule. Mel Robbins, she wrote a book, and she was talking about one of the hardest things about being successful in businesses is that there are times that you have to pull away from the pack, like the wolf pack. And some races can pull away from the wolf pack and still survive because of their face, they can still have face value. But when you're a black person and you pull away from your group and your community, one, you get alienated from the community, and then you don't have face value. They look at you and see criminalization, or they see something wrong, or they see you being slick. They don't see the business person you are. And that right there can build some heavy, heavy stress and mental issues on trying to move forward and navigate in this world.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think and I love, Dr. Kurt, how you talked about right before the break, this needs to be a regular conversation because I'm just unfortunately thinking of my friend that I lost a year ago amongst my partners, went to college with him and everything. And so what typically happens, I would guess, and then, this is what happened for us, of course, was we wanted to have a lot of conversations in a sense around that. Dr. Kurt, I think I actually met you when we were at the, matter of fact, let's highlight this real quick. I met you at a location at the time. We were even, I think, still doing our online mental health checkup that my brother Sincere, he and I was doing for the community during the pandemic, really, because again, that happened. So we were offering a once a month online, and unfortunately, that was unfortunately kicked off as a result of having lost a brother here in the Atlanta community, and Brother Sincere had lost another brother I didn't know. And so I remember he called me that day and said, man, we got to do something so that their deaths were not in vain. And so we started the community checkup online for a couple of years. And I'm not saying it just to highlight our work, but I'm highlighting that unfortunately it usually takes a situation to want to even start having the conversation, and we carried those on for a couple of years. So I just wanted to kind of have you, if you will, dig into normalizing this conversation. As you said, it needs to be done. So I think we got to kind of say enough to explain to the culture out there, anybody listening, how is that done, or how would you suggest to do that so that it does become normal and we're able to, in a sense, save people before there's a tragedy, if you will. Go ahead, King.
Yeah, I mean, there's several signs to look for when it comes to checking in with our loved ones. That includes friends and family. You know, obviously the withdrawal. I mean, it's hard, right? We miss it more often than not. But my goal is to turn it into a normal topic where we're always in front of it. How you doing? And then zipping our miles and allowing ourselves to just listen, right? And listen to the patterns and watch the body language and check on one another. We have more access to one another, and we're still in less contact, right? And so just being in the space, sharing the space, checking on our loved ones, and sharing how we feel, right? Asking brothers and sisters, like, what's really going on? It's embarrassing, right? It's painful. It's hurtful to talk about illness or lack of finances or trouble in your marriage or relationship, right? For one, we don't want to burden people. For two, at the time we're going through painful incidences, we feel all alone, right? And so there's the embarrassment and the guilt and shame attached. So we don't. It becomes silent suffering until it becomes overwhelming. And then at some point, it's just like, how do I get rid of the pain? And so ideation, talking about the idea of thinking about ending the pain by way of removing yourself physically, has to be normalized. Like, what are the options? Do you have a plan in place, right? Not being afraid to engage in conversation. Someone said, man, these would probably be better if I'm not even here, man. My kids, I can't perform as a dad or a man. And asking a brother, like, okay, I hear you. Tell me more. Right? Do you have a plan? Right? What does that look like? And not really being afraid of going in that space. He could just be toiling with stress and idea, like, man, how do I stop the pain? The drinking, the smoking, the drugs, the sex, the porn doesn't do it. And so now he's at end. He hadn't received professional help. Right, we'll invite each other out to a special event before we pay an invoice for one of our partners to go talk to a professional therapist. Right, we got to get better at standing in the gap for those who say, I can't, I just don't have it, and I'm just over here silently suffering. So I'll pause there, brothers.
No, I love it. I love it. Go ahead, Dwayne. I heard you kind of say something. If you want to jump in.
No, it just hit a spot. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You think about when, I traveled down that tunnel. You know what I mean? So, like, this is, like, even when you first called this morning, I'm like, man, do I even want to open those wounds up? I mean, because this is some scary subject. I mean, you and I actually, we did an event last year where this topic came up, and it got very emotional. I mean, it was a powerful moment. It was probably 12 brothers, 12 black men in the middle of a mountain in Flagstaff, and I think for 4 hours there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I mean, it was a powerful moment. And one of the things that I think the bigger issues that we have in our black community is there is none of that. There is no support. Like when you're younger, you're playing around doing silly stuff and you trying to be whatever, yada, yada, yada. But then you grow up and realize, okay, I got life, I got bills, I got family, I got all this stuff. And you could catch yourself in a situation where you're just not winning at all. And every time you turn, you're getting smacked in the mouth. You know what I mean? Every time you get in turn, you either getting, the bank is going to take from you, the cop is trying to take from you, the store man is trying to take from you. And now you're trying to, like, how do I navigate that? Who do I talk to? And then your family, oh, I told you so. You know what I mean? And nobody is on your side. And so you're trying to live in this whole thing. One of the things that I have this vivid picture about being a black man in America is you're buried to your neck in sand, and everybody's legally allowed to kick you in the head whenever they're upset or mad or whenever they want to get over. And that's my depiction of being a black person in American society.
And I would like to just say this real briefly, and not that it absolutely matters, but for anybody out there listening, we're talking to a brother that's a couple of times over been super successful in business. And again, we're going to get to some solutions later in the show when we get into the morning routine stuff, but we have to put this in context because there's that unfortunate reality that we all talk about, right? How men are told to kind of hold in their emotions and not talk. And so we always kind of say, oh, that's an issue. And sometimes we lose some of our brothers and sisters due to revisiting, or like Dr. Kurt just said, hey, willing to pay an invoice for someone to go to therapy. And it's
cool. Let me jump in real fast on one.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Can I jump in?
Yeah,
I was, there was a post that I did out here in Chicago. It was a post that I did. And it was something in the Chicago community group, and I had said something on there. I don't remember what the total context of what the conversation was, but I remember this like yesterday. It was some brother hopped on and said, oh, you one of them sissy NIGGAs. You went to that Landmark garbage. Because what happened was I had went to that Tony Robbins UPW, and then I turned around, and I really didn't even know what the Landmark Forum was, but I went to the Landmark Forum, and one of his brothers was like, oh, you one of them goofy type dudes, you won't, like, it's almost like you had to be a hardcore, you know what I mean, hood. You mean I know you don't want to say the word on your show, but you had to be a hardcore ninja. Wrong.
We are not a politically correct show. Say nigga. Say it.
Yeah.
We don't
you
play
had to
on
be a hardcore ninja. Yeah,
nigger,
or you ain't nothing.
Nigga, we are sweet. We ain't scared of that. Say it. Say it like it is. It's not a word I use personally. But we don't. We're not politically correct. That's one of our rules. Speak it how it is.
Okay. Yeah. Or you're nothing, and it sort of caught me off guard because I'm like, isn't the whole goal about doing this is about trying to better yourself, trying to be better? Like, shouldn't you have said, oh man, hey man, you went to that Landmark Forum. How was it? Did it help? Was it better for you? And it was the fact that he tried to come at me. You mean for even going there? And it sort of caught me off guard. Like, dog, is that the mindset you want to stay in, my man? Like, wow.
No, he said
incidentally, Brother Dwayne, I went through Landmark. I went through the entire curriculum for living, and it was a total game changer. I do get, especially brothers from large metropolis, like we criticize things we don't understand. But to your point, Landmark was a game changer.
Yeah.
And let's dig into what you're talking about just a little bit, Dwayne. I got a lot of callers out there. For the callers, if y'all want to jump in, all you have to do is press 1. Y'all can ask a question, tell your story, whatever the case may be. If you're just enjoying it via the phone, no problem. For the online listeners, if you want to get in on this conversation this morning, 646-787-1691. Again, that's 646-787-1691. And press 1 if you want to speak. So I just want to explore. We got a few minutes before the break, so I want to explore exactly what what we're talking about right now. Let's go a little deeper in that, because again, it is one of our realities, right? The transition to even success and what that looks like as a black person, or in particular, as you know, we are all black men on this show, if you will. There is that stigma quite often, because what you're kind of referring to, they looked at this Landmark situation as probably as a white thing, right? And so there's this aspect of, again, like I said, y'all both are from large metropolises, but I'm from a rural area. But there was always an aspect of me being, in a sense, the smart kid or whatever. That was looked at as even being smart was being white, if you will. So there's all these aspects, even within our culture, that also play a role in, I would say, even being able to interact when there's an issue. If you're being ostracized within your own culture for doing things that could be helpful, to include therapy. We know there is a historical history where they considered seeing a psychologist as crazy. Like luckily we seem to have lost that context, but I don't know that we've lost the actual, lost it within our deeper psychology. We don't say it verbally now, but there's still that lagging, am I crazy to go to a psychologist, even though people might not say that to you today. Got about a minute and a half before break, Dr. Kurt, but jump in on just kind of digging deeper about that being an aspect of navigating the Black American experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're more, crazy is relative, particularly in my world, but we are more crazy not to go seek professional help, right? I'm not suggesting that everybody needs therapy, but I do suggest that everybody at least check in with therapy, right, as part of your overall holistic health. Right? It's just like having an accountant and the periodontist and the dentist and the primary physician and an attorney, right? Make sure that you have, particularly entrepreneurs and business owners, but everybody for that fact, that you have your squad, your tribe. You are surrounded with pillars that could help you stand erect in the event that you need to lean or you're about to topple over. Yeah, we get a lot of criticism. I don't hear it a lot for a number of reasons that I think, for one, I stay in my lane, and for two, I'm just not tolerating. Let's be clear, I am from Chicago, right? So certain things I'm just not tolerating. Let's be clear, like don't let these certificates and degrees fool you, guys. Some stuff I just ain't with. But overall, you're like, yeah, man, like there's a fear that it comes out in criticism. It's easy for us to share adverse perspectives online as opposed to asking questions. Right, I hear a lot of stuff, but we become critical as opposed to curious, and I think we dropped the ball on that.
No, absolutely. And and on the flip side, which I think is part of Dwayne's point, as he said, that brother or those brothers that approached him that way, he said, he said, do you want to stay in that space? So for even anyone out there listening that could be in a sense the flip side of it, that's in the space, and that's how you identify. Just realize that identification can be holding you back and play a role in experiencing some of what we're talking about today. I'm actually going to play a cut from R.J. Henn. I found this on online, and it's just him talking about his suicidal ideation, if you will. So we'll peel this back after we play the cut. Again, I see a lot of callers out there. If y'all are just listening, no problem. If y'all want to get in, please press 1. We'll be right back.
And then it just started to snowball. Spiral. Then it became my life, and it became job, company, friends, family, what I did do, what I didn't. And it quickly starts to become, for me, in this case, a sense of worthlessness, a sense of you don't matter. A sense of everybody will be okay without you. At that point, there's like so many different things that are just running through my mind. But in most cases, it's how I didn't measure up, or how I failed, or how I'm not good enough. How everybody would be okay without me in this world. And this continues and continues, and then on the scale I'm like a 5, and then I'm a 6, and I'm starting to just cry profusely. And I notice a car behind me with their high beams on. And so I get over to the right lane, like, please let them pass. They sped up past me. And then there was another car that sped up past me too, and I'm thinking, man, these guys are racing. Come to find out, the second car was a police officer. It was in that split second that I knew exactly how I was going to take my life. It was in that moment that I said, you know what? Let me do the same thing. Let me speed up as fast as I can to try to get pulled over by the police. Once I'm pulled over, jump out the car and act like a madman. That would provoke the officer to shoot me. That's how I was going to take my life. Didn't have anything planned before that, but on the way, on the highway, I progressed from a 5 to a 6 to a 7 to an 8. And once that police officer passed, and I had the idea, it became a 9. It was just a matter of me doing it.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates, along with special guest Dr. Kurt, as well as DUANE DRAUGHON. Dr. Kurt, we'll start with you again. Just any thoughts on hearing Brother R.J. Henn tell part of his story of when he, all of a sudden, to a degree, came up with the idea I'm finna offer myself. And to give a little context, prior to that, he had talked about he had been triggered. He had kind of made a change in his life where he had kind of prided himself on always being on time. And he ended up, prior to the moment that you're hearing him talk about, he had met with a friend, had drove a little distance to meet with a friend. He ended up calling a friend a few hours out saying, I'm going to be an hour late, whatever. He meets with a friend, has a great time. He leaves the friend, stops somewhere to get a drink. And while he's getting the drink, or right after he leaves getting the drink, the friend says, good to see you, had a great time, but I kind of have an issue with you being late. And it triggered the moment that you just heard. So just want to give a little more context, if you will, Dr. Kurt. Go ahead. Yeah,
that's heavy. Yeah, that entire clip is heavy. That happens more times than we realize. Men, particularly, and we're speaking of men, the mind is a very dangerous place to sort of reside in, and it'll take hold in the body. I've been there, right? And there has been a number of cases where brothers have chosen suicide by way of interacting with the police, provoking the police to kill them, right? And it has been for quite a long time. And I don't think we talk enough about that, right? But yeah, I get it, all right? There's triggering, there's re-traumatizing, there's a host of things that come with just in survival mode. The title, Suicidal to High Achiever, it's almost like if you're not on the journey to high achievement, you by default are in suicidal mode, right? Because there is no staying the same. So I love the title of Can a Morning Routine Help Save Your Life? And there's levels to save, right? And there's levels to life. Like, are we actually just living or existing? Lots of things come up with that. Lots of things come up with that. I think as men, we just need to continue not only to do our own healing work, right, but to reach out, to do things like this. Because one of the things that we do online is we'll talk about getting that bread. We'll talk about the bag. Everybody do it. I very rarely lead with being an entrepreneur or business owner. Right? I hadn't worked a job in 20 years, right? Last job I had was being a principal of a middle school, because I don't want to lead with just getting the bag. I want to lead as a result of providing the service and solutions, and therefore getting my bag on the back end, as opposed to leading with the bag. And I say that not to demean or talk against or come back at anybody, just to say that there is work that we all have to do. Right? We all have to do work. And what needs to grab a hold is not just getting rid of the stigma, but making this a regular conversation, making this a regular conversation. We talk about every subject, and we talk about, and I'll close in 1 second, gentlemen, we talk about this whole mental health as some trending topic. Right? This is it. Like, oh, you need to go talk to somebody. This, my mental health, right? Clueless about what this means. Right, there are a lot of advocates who are posing as experts without expertise. Right, it's one thing to advocate for it by way of your journey and your story and sharing resources. Another thing about sharing what you consider to be expertise when it actually is not, and how that could be just as detrimental as having no expertise in some cases. I'll pause there.
No, I love it. It's actually perfect. Because it's funny, I'm trying to text this brother, and he is coming up right now, but there's a brother, I'm going to go ahead and give his name, Jamel Shelton, that started on Dougal with another brother, from what I understand, here in the Atlanta area. And I'm highlighting it in particularly because I want to give him credit for the very thing that you're talking about, Dr. Kurt. You know, obviously we highlighted our online community checkup that we did or whatever, but Ndugu is an ongoing brotherhood. They call it a safe space for black men. I always admit that as a country boy, I still struggle with the word safe space, but I go. But more importantly, they're having the conversations to their credit that you're talking about. And so I have to highlight that I am fortunate enough again, having mental dialogue, being a space where we will willingly have these conversations, but even more power and credit to Ndugu and those brothers, from the fact that I've watched powerful interactions similar to what you were talking about, Dwayne, with at your what do we call it? What do we call the outing that you put together, Dwayne? Black men. What do we call
Behind the lines. Behind the lines.
Yep. So I want to give this brother Dwayne credit. I could say that moment that you were talking about, Dwayne, was one of the most powerful I ever seen. Considering that, again, you were just putting it together to kind of get people's minds right? That was your ultimate goal. And so here's what I want to highlight based on something that Dr. Kurt just said. So we are starting to put some things in place. I want to give credit for the ones that I know about, Dwayne putting together behind the lines. But the big thing about Jamel Shelton and Ndugu, he came up with the idea after getting a major contract. I'm relating to the question of getting to the bag. I wanted to kind of bring that full circle. He came up with the idea after getting this major contract. Him and the wife are in business together. They are very successful here in the Atlanta area. Ad Honey, I think if I'm saying their business correct. I've been there several times. But with that said, he had got this big contract, and it didn't feel good to him. It didn't feel right. He couldn't wrap his head around, this is what I've been aiming for, and none of it feels right. And him and his wife fortunately suggested, he had a friend out of the country. That's why they came up with the idea for Ndugu, but he had a friend out of the country, and he said, just go spend time with that friend. And they did a lot of mental health work. That's what I would call it. I don't know if that's what he would actually call it, but it brought him back full circle, and he realized he wanted to create something for other people that were in his same space. So I'm really speaking to your point, Dr. Kurt, of, always focusing on getting the bag can be completely devoid of what's actually going on with us as, men. And we hear, people with money commit suicide as well. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate what you talked about. Dwayne, anything you want to jump in reference to, just getting to the bag ain't a lifesaver at all when it comes to this type of stuff?
There's so many levels to this, and it's almost like it needs more than a 2-hour show. It actually needs a series. Because you got to have commercials and everything else, and you got to talk, and other people got to talk. But there's a lot to really unravel this. But
right.
What I've learned is, and this is recent, like for the first, let's say I've been in this whole business venture for 24 years, and for the first 20 years of it, it's going for the bag. And even when I talk to, I get women who reach out to me, hey, I'm starting a business, what do you know? I get men who reach out to me, starting a business, and they're such at the infancy stages, it's even hard for me to talk to them sometimes. But I always notice one thing. None of them is really giving a shit about what they're going to do in business. They just see that there's some money behind it, and let's go after this bread. And where my most powerful wake-up is I realized that none of this has anything to do with anything but your personal joy. So what you have to do is you have to find your personal joy, and what is it that makes you happy? What is it that gives you joy? Put all your focus and attention on that, and then the bag starts building up around you to keep creating and living that. And I think that's the biggest, and that's not a black thing, it's not a white thing. This is a society, human thing, that the more we focus on who we are as a personal being, personal person, like I'm a pilot, I love to fly, it's a hobby, it's not a job, it's a hobby. So any given chance I can take to go flying and go up in an airplane and go get it, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to do. So, but the more I focus on it, the more business comes, money comes, something lands on my lap, something works out in its way to get me up in an airplane to go flying. And those are the things that I'm talking about. You got to focus on that and not just this bag. That's suicidal alone, trying to get the bag, because don't nobody know how to get the bag.
Nah, that's a dope perspective. I love it. We are up against the break because, to your point, we do have to stay on the air. For anybody out there listening, go to mentaldialogue.com and become an individual supporter and maybe I'll have less commercials, if you will. But right now, it's a balancing act. So let me shout out Ship and Share Wines, one of our sponsors. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, where all I ask is that you think.
Hey, are you a wine drinker?
A little bit here and there, but my wife definitely loves hers. Why you ask?
Man, you got to try this vegan wine by Sip and Share Wines. I ran across them at this event in Atlanta, and now I keep me a few bottles at the house. What flavor you like?
I like me a good red or maybe a nice Zinfandel or something, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, try this sweet red first.
Okay, that's nice and smooth right there. Yeah, that's kind of sweet like I like it, you know what I'm talking about?
For sure, that's why I like that one as well. Hey, now try this Conjure Zinfandel. This one was featured in Forbes magazine as a top 10 drink for the summer. See what you think.
Oh, okay, now that's fire right there. Where can I get a bottle of that?
Just go to sipandsharewines.com. They'll ship it right to your door. They black owned too.
Oh, yeah? Okay, you said what? Sipandsharewines.com, is that it?
Yep.
Bad.
But it's more important that you understand suicide is a very real thing. And in a lot of cases, a little more than half of the cases sum up to somebody having a mental health disability. It's very common to ask the question, did you not think about your family? Did you not think about your kids? What about your parents? You've got a great job. Things look great. You looked happy. You didn't think about any of this? Like, what's going to happen if you die? What's going to happen if you leave? And I understand that it comes from a good place, because most people don't know. But also what most people don't know is that when you're in that state of mind, when you are mentally sick, you're not thinking straight. I wasn't thinking straight. And most people who are in that state of mind are not thinking straight. They are mentally sick. Even if it's brought on temporarily by some catastrophic event in their life or some kind of stress that just kind of all of a sudden came on, they're just not thinking clearly. And I can say for myself, it's hard to even fathom, but it's literally the absence of emotion. In that moment, there's nothing that matters to me. Nothing.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question, suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? Special guest, Dr. Curtis, as well as DUANE DRAUGHon. And again, we just got to give this first hour a full context as we continue to move into this conversation, going a little deeper. DUANE absolutely offered one of the solutions, if you will, which is chase your joy versus the bag, if you will, is pretty much how I would sum up what he said previous to that. But getting specifically to the cut, Dr. Kurt, I think I'm pretty sure you're cool with this because I've seen you talk about this publicly, if you will, but you've had your own run-in with the ideation that you just heard again from, that was R.J. Hen giving his story and just saying at that, you talked about it earlier in the show, that if you're in a suicidal ideation and you're actually, possibly playing it out, thinking about the act, let me see what this feels like, if you will, let me plan it out. Let me do a part of the plan and see if I even have the capability to, in a sense, as you said, end the pain. And as R.J. Hen said at that moment, none of the family, if they get to that point, it does not matter. But I know to a degree you're in the psychology space partly because of your own story, and you vowed to help Black men improve themselves and become high achievers, even though you've been here before, from what I understand. Go ahead, King.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've been in a downward spiral for about 5 years. Like, I've won a lot, lost a lot, and won. So I've made several comebacks. But this one setback, it came, all at once. It was the economy, anywhere from, obviously it started somewhere in 2008, but it started really impacting me 2009-10. Both my parents became ill and eventually passed away. I went through a tough divorce, lost all of the things, all my assets, had to spend a little time in jail, and it was just a tough time for me for years, banging my head against it, trying to do things that had made me successful in the past. They were non-applicable. And so I checked out. I thought about ways to walk away. I actually felt that it would be better to remove myself, just like we just heard in the video. And then I would phase in and out. I didn't come up with a plan, but it was so painful that I was like, man, I'm done. And so I quit striving. I quit. I didn't take my life, obviously, but I quit. Like, I literally checked out on the job, and I did nothing for weeks, months, very minimal. I did change my diet, and I kept working out because I promised myself when I come out of this that I wanted to at least be functional, healthy-wise while I rebuild my nervous system and my mind, and I did just that. And so I come from a healing space. I've been there, and in a lot of areas I'm still there. There is a allowing of joy, as Brother DUANE said. Like, when we say go after joy is a naturalness. It's a reset of well-being once we remove the things that get in its way, right? We all have had that when we were children coming up. And so I speak from not only culturally competent, but from, lived experiences, right? And that's why this routine topic that I know we're going to get in is so vital, because that really is the life-saving apparatus. Even when you start to feel better, even when the money starts backflowing, right, you got to stay in front of it. One of the best ways is to have a morning routine. It will save your life, even if you decide not to take it. It is a part I want to drive home based on the title. It will save your life in a number of areas that I'll mention too at a later part of the show.
No, absolutely. DUANE, again, I've gotten to know you personally. I think maybe the first time we ever had you on the show, just to give a little more context. Again, you've been an entrepreneur all your life, definitely a lot of ups and downs. Always, as much as people push people into entrepreneurship, I am quick to say, and we'll be doing a show here in a couple of weeks, can everybody be entrepreneurs? That entrepreneurship is a very unique skill set, and everybody cannot be one, to the point where I know you had a business. I know you're in Chicago now, but I think maybe in Ohio, where, you've been falsely ran up into by the police to shut your business down. You've been through a lot of experiences, and you've had your own ordeal. So as much as you and Dr. Kirk can speak to and are going to speak to the success of a morning routine and what it can do for you, I'm just highlighting, whatever you're willing to share in reference to. You have your own story in relation to this subject today. For whatever parts you may want to share, please do, King.
My wife, I get to cheat this life a little bit. My wife she owns a company called Loud Whisper, and she does the same thing as a doctor does, and she works with high achieving women, and she actually does pro bono for, Black women and women in the community. And so I get her as my coach. Sometimes I don't want to hear the shit, and then a lot of times.
We keep it buck, man. We keep it a buck on here, man. I love it. Go ahead, King.
Yeah. A lot of times it's just what I need. You know what I mean? Like, she'll catch me on a day and she'll just ask me a couple questions. And at first I'm not realizing that she's setting me up, but she just set me up and she's learning me down the path. But it could be a 5-minute conversation, a 10-minute conversation, an hour. But after it's done, my mind has changed. I'm back into the game. Because even now I still deal with these ups and downs. We turn a hell of bread, and I'm still dealing with financial ups and downs, little scares here and there, hiccups, mistakes, and all that other stuff. But it's still crazy even now to this day. But one of the things she did say, when you can tell your story without crying, you're starting to heal. And so I'll tell this really fast is that Montoya's correctly. We owned a business in Columbus, Ohio, did very well within 9 years, over $6 million in sales. But there was always this just heavy regime of white power coming down on us. And because it was mainly in the white communities that we had to operate at. And so we were on our own. We didn't have any help. So we shut everything down, moved to Chicago. I get here to Chicago. Within 6 months here, my father died, not realizing these are some other childhood traumas that I had, not realizing that some of the reasons why I was in business was to show my father that I could do it, because he would always tell me to get a job, and I always looked up to him. So I wanted to prove to him that I could do it. So he dies. I have nobody else to prove business to, and then I spiral out. And I spiral out to the point where there's nothing wrong with hustling, doing whatever gig economy is what we got now. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't my plan. It wasn't my plan to be the Uber driver picking up people and dropping people off. Don't get me wrong. I respect it. I thank God for it, because if it wasn't there, I probably would have been completely flat broke. And but it wasn't where I wanted to go. I went from millions to picking up people and dropping them off. And I had a moment there, man, when I completely spiraled out. And I remember it like yesterday. It was something that I'll probably never forget for the rest of my life, because it's some of the motivation that I have, is that my buddy had bought me some tickets to go to this Tony Robbins UPW thing. I did not know what it was about. I had no clue this UPW was going to change my life. I couldn't even afford it. And the first event that we had, I made an excuse and made up something. My nephew ended up dying, so it was a perfect excuse. I had to go to my nephew's funeral. I couldn't go. So he called me back up again. He was persistent, said, "Man, you want to go?" I finally agreed. I didn't have any money for the plane tickets. So I just Ubered as hard as I possibly could. And then I ended up taking some money and buying the plane tickets to go. And the very day that I buy the plane tickets and to go, I get a knock on the door, and it's the guy from the courts, and it's now number 6 eviction hearing. So here I am about to get evicted for the 6th time. Going through the process of eviction on number 6. And it's like I looked at God and said, "You don't really want me to make it, because this is a game. Dude, I'm trying to go to some event. I'm thinking it's a business seminar to get my business better, and here I am agree. And the very same day that the UPW started was the exact same day as my court hearing. So I remember going upstairs and sitting on the side of the bed, and I'm looking at my drawer, and I'm actually in the exact same position that I am now telling you the story. And I remember pulling open the drawer, and I was going to pull the gun out and blow my head off. And I said to myself, "Nah, bro, don't do this shit right now." I'm thinking, your kid is going to see you. Your son is going to come home from school, and he can't wait to see you. He was actually in that age where he actually liked his dad, and so he couldn't wait to see his dad. And so don't do that. And I didn't. I just didn't. I didn't. And I walked away. I closed the drawer. And then instead of going to court, I told my wife, I said, "I'm going to go to this UPW thing. I'm not going to go to court. You go and just see if you can reschedule a date." I remember this is some powerful shit I'm explaining. As the plane was taking off, I remember looking down on the ground in Chicago, and I'm like, I'm leaving my family. But I was like, I'm leaving my family in harm's way, because, we're about to hit eviction number 6. But I said to myself, something is about to happen that's about to change all this. And I went to that UPW and completely rocked my world. And I realized it's a mental game. It's nothing else but a mental game. I never Ubered again when I got back. And think about this. I was Ubering for survival. I got back from the UPW and never Ubered again another day.
Wow.
And I was that year struggling around 60-something K that year. Then the next year it was $300K. The next year went up to 800,000, and the year after that, last year, we almost cracked 2 million. Right at the edge of 2 million, and just all that changed by getting my head in order, and it was a powerful moment, man, just powerful.
Nah, thank you for explaining that story, because I know how it goes. If someone sees you now, they would never know that that's been your story. And again, very prevalent to today's discussion. We are at the top of the hour. We're going to go to a break, and we're going to transition into how, like you just talked about, because what people don't understand, coming back from UPW, you didn't have more money in that moment. You just had a different mindset and said, this is not how I'm going to get to the quote unquote bag. You just had repurposed it and figured it out, and now you have that beautiful story to tell. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, where all I ask is that you think.
Hey, where did you get that hat and t-shirt? I like that.
Oh, I got this at moneymotivation.com. It's fresh, right?
Yes, and I love the message on it too. You are the hustle, huh?
That's what the shirt says. I am the hustle. They embody the entrepreneur spirit, and what I like the most, it's more than a brand. It's a lifestyle for those who want to put in the work and expect to have the finer things in life. I also follow them on Instagram. Check this post out.
If you believe money is the root of all evil, you're using it wrong?
Or how about this one? Excuses make $0 an hour.
I like those. What's their IG?
At moneymotivation.co.
But do they have any ladies gear?
Yes, you're going to love the clothing line they got for the ladies. Matter of fact, pull up their website, moneymotivation.com, and I'm going to get you a few things so we can both look like money.
Everywhere I go, and everywhere I be, I don't even talk, they still know it's me, 'cause I look like money, smell like...
Psychologist Dr. Gerald Hassel and Omar Buckner, founders of Self-Mastery Retreats International, is proud to present a transformative experience specifically designed by Black men for Black men. This immersive retreat offers a unique opportunity for Black men to forge deep bonds, enhance their personal growth, and empower themselves to create positive change in their lives, families, and communities. For 5 days in the sacred surroundings of Puerto Morales, Mexico, a select group of powerful Black men will embark on a journey of self-discovery, creating a safe and supportive space to share their experience and build a strong sense of community. This trip will truly transform your life and takes place February the 15th through 19th, 2024. If interested, text Self-Mastery to 678-548-2456. Again, that is Self-Mastery to 678-458-2456 to receive a direct link for the retreat.
As someone who has struggled with depression for most of my 20s, I can safely say that if I didn't have things to do or any places to be, I can easily and happily stay in bed the rest of my life. Okay, but life doesn't work that way. But with all the videos today on having the best morning routine, what are you supposed to do when you are depressed and you don't have the energy to do any of it? And that's the point of today's video, because I want to share some realistic things that I've learned about and done over the years when I was depressed, so that hopefully this helps you in building a morning routine if you are feeling sad or unmotivated. I think the most important part that we need to know about is the way we start our mornings is how we set the tone for the rest of the day. In my opinion, I don't think that we have to wake up at 4, 5, or even 6 in the morning if that's not the way our bodies work. Like, of course, you're going to have to wake up earlier if you have school or work or anything. I would say just try your best. Wake up whenever you can, and right when you wake up, just implement some things into your morning routine so that you can get your day started on a good note. And when I say things, I would say things that really don't take up a lot of energy, because we all know that depression sucks all the energy away from you. In the beginning, when I was trying to start making my bed, I was like, yo, dude, I ain't got time for this. I'm late, I need to run out the door right now. But the more times I made my bed, the more I found that it was like positively impacting my mind. And the first reason being is that early in the morning when you wake up, you're checking something off your list already. When you make your bed, you are creating a clean and tidy environment that also, I believe, frees up space in your mind as well. Like, I don't know about you, but when I was depressed, my room was a mess.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question: suicidal to high achiever. Can a morning routine save your life? special guest, Dr. Kurt, as well as DUANE DRAUGHon. And I wanted to start at the very basics and very beginning. Let me also shout out Mike Lawson. It's kind of the reason we're doing this show. Very similar story to yours, DUANE. When you highlighted it at Undoable, again, shout out those brothers for having the safe space for men to have these conversations. And the brother shared, he knows what the a 45 tastes like, because he went as far as to put the gun in his mouth and, like yourself, decided not to at that moment, and he is still with us, and he's the reason we're doing the show today. But he also said when he was sharing at the Undoable that somehow somebody had mentioned a morning routine, and it triggered him to tell his story, because he said a morning routine saved his life. So I got to give that brother a shout out. He was hoping to be on the show. I couldn't get him on this morning. And it's so crazy that, you know, again, this is how the universe works. I knew my brother DUANE could fill in, even though I didn't have the actual brother that I wanted to, and their stories are similar in that sense. And, you know, like y'all said, y'all are always still figuring it out. So I wanted to start, Dr. Kurt, if you will. I used that cut right there because I didn't want to jump all the way into the, you know, we're online now, right? So there's always morning routines. You got to get up early. All these things that are always suggested, whether it comes across your feed on TikTok or IG or Facebook for those that have those apps. And so it can seem overwhelming. But when you're at the lowest of the low, what you just heard from that young lady, I think, is an initial step that people have to think about, especially if anybody's listening may be in one of those lows, right? Is that how small it may have to start before you build into a robust routine that, in a sense, can save your life. So I wanted to just kind of start very small, because when you're there, even doing something like making the bed could be an issue. Go ahead, Dr. Kurt.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, from a generic standpoint, a routine is just a sequence of actions followed or performed regularly, right? Most people do some sort of default routine without even realizing it, but a routine has to be intentional for it to serve a function and a purpose. I found that I, to a degree, always had a routine. Like I was trained as a child to make my bed. So there were certain things that came very easy to me just from having discipline in certain things. What I had to do was focus on a morning routine to sort of get my winds up and going before 8 in the morning, right? And routines come as a result of practice. It's not predicated on how strong or weak you are. It's a series of things that are done regularly. So it's a practice, if you will. I could tell you one of the good things, or several good things about having a morning routine, whether you start small or big, right, is that it provides a sense of stability. It will always help you manage your stress and anxiety. It'll give you a sense of accomplishment, create structure, give you one of your greatest assets, and that's time. It'll help save time, and it'll overall reduce your need for determination and willpower, which you could put into other areas of your life when life starts life. But here's one of the best things about having a routine, is that you actually get to keep track of your success. And I know Brother DUANE will fill me on it. The reason why we're able to get on this call is because we have a routine, that during the week we can keep track of our successes. So even if we have to be flexible and jump on this call, the routine allows that without being disruptive and allow us to continue with a powerful week. And so there's a lot of good things that come into a routine. The overall goal is to build up mental and emotional strength and flexibility. Routines keep you flexible. They may seem rigid, but they'll allow you to be flexible on a need-to basis. The results of a routine, come on, man, it allows the emotional bandwidth. I do a lot in the emotional space, right? Most practitioners in my area deal with the mental health, right, not realizing that the brain is designed to keep you in survival mode. It'll attempt to make sense, even if it's crazy sense, because of the feelings one is going through in the body. So your routine will have you actually allow more emotional bandwidth to support life challenges, right? So, you know, it'll give you valuable coping and managing skills for your emotions help you build resilience. It'll replace bad habits, which all of us could benefit from. But here's another game changer. It'll help calm your nervous system. The magic resides in the body, not the mind. The mind will give you that 1 or 2 millimeter shifts where it could propel you, but that body has to perform an action in order for you to achieve a desired outcome. So, and the way to do that is to train the nervous system to remain in a calm state more times than not. That is the goal for success, regardless of your field of endeavors.
Thank you for that, Dr. Kurt, if you will, Dwayne. Again, I kind of just highlighted in the cut that young lady, in my opinion, just talked about starting small, and she obviously was referencing someone kind of in their depressed state, if you will. I don't know what I know you get up early. I don't know your full routine or whatever, but if you will, when you kind of got the idea to start in being intentional about your routine, because to Dr. Kurt's point, our habits are routine quite often as well, whether you're being intentional or not. But when you decided to be intentional, was it a process where you were able to jump into what you're doing now, or did you have to start small? I'm just asking, just for you to share that aspect of starting your routine, if you can recall that.
The routine is I have to say, the very thing that I basically live for. Like, I am alive because of the routine, and I've actually started even stretching it past the morning routine. It's just things that I'm starting to do throughout the day now too. And this is going to sound funny, but if I did not do a morning routine, I would be a basket case. Like, literally. Like, the moment my eyes wake up, I run through the entire operation, who I owe, what I owe. I got to do this. Did you call this? Oh, man, you ain't shit. You should have done this. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you call this person back? Why didn't you pay this person on time? You should have paid that card. You should have did that. You got to flip that money over here. The moment my eyes go open, I start downloading all this, and I'm like, I got to stop. Because I'll go crazy. Then I start beating myself down like, dude, you're smarter than that. Why did you do that? Da-da-da. You got to be on top of it. Da-da-da. I got to stop. So one of the things that I did learn by doing the work, I'm not going to say it's one pro. I'm not going to say if it's Tony Robbins or the Landmark Forum or the millions of books that I'm constantly reading, the YouTube videos that I'm watching, the mindset, the Joe Dispenza. I've jumped down the rabbit hole on mindset. But I'm going to talk about the nucleus of what you have to understand to even get to this morning routine first. One, you got to understand that nobody dies on the deadline, okay? Just because the deadline is set, nobody ever dies on a deadline. There's always a couple days later. There's always a couple more minutes. There's always a few other phone calls that can be made. Just because the deadline is set, nobody dies on a deadline. And that right there alone will release a lot of stress from a lot of people. Okay, right. Number two, the only thing that matters in this life is right very now, okay? Yesterday is gone, and there's nothing you can ever do to get that back, and tomorrow's not here yet. So the only life that you are living, listen to this. As a matter of fact, I want everybody who's on this call or on this thing to listen to this. The very life that you're living is only right now. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's the life that you're living is right now. And when you catch that, it's going to kick you in the mouth, and it's going to really change your life when you really understand. I can tell you, but you got to understand that first, that the life that you're living is right now. Yesterday's gone. It's not here, and tomorrow's is not here yet. So anything can change within a second. If you're not hurt and something's not pricking your finger or kicking you in the mouth or you're not falling, your life is actually really good. So really good. Then let's go to the routine. The reason why the routine is so powerful for me is I actually wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and that's via my wife. My wife is an early bird, and it's rubbed off on me. So 4:30 in the morning, I do not touch the cell phone. I don't go through it. I get up. My first thing, my mind goes crazy, and I do the Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, put my feet on the ground, get up, and I walk. I either go into my daughter's bedroom because she's not here anymore. She's actually in Atlanta chilling with Montoya out there. Yeah. Or I hop in my car and I go to a park. And I go through sort of like the morning, church devotion.
Matter of fact, let me do this. Dwayne. Let me let you tell it after this break as well, if you don't mind. Let me get this one little break in, and then you can tell us those steps. I definitely want to hear your routine. All right, y'all. Let me jump to this break. Area code 501. We'll get to you after the break as well. You're listening to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, where all I ask is that you think. I want to shout out TCH Media and anybody out there needing some integrated social media to help your business. Definitely check this out. We'll be right back.
What happens when your customers call your business and you're too busy to answer or call them back in a timely manner? You lose that business. Shockingly, 61% of inbound calls go unanswered. But fear not, TCHmedia.ai is here to change the game. We specialize in capturing, nurturing, and converting your prospects into loyal customers. With our state-of-the-art communication solutions, no interaction will be left behind. When you miss a call, we've got you covered with automatic, engaging texts that keep your prospects connected and eager to choose you over your competitors. Don't let potential customers slip away. Make the smart choice with TCHmedia.ai and skyrocket your conversions today. TCHmedia.ai is here to change the game.
And a great way to start off your morning. So what I did was I just bought a deck of affirmation cards off of Amazon. There are so many of them on there. You can purchase your own. But what I've been doing is that every month or so, I just go through the deck and I pick out the 3 most inspiring and motivating quotes on there. And I'll just post them on the side of my mirror. What that allows me to do is when I'm brushing my teeth, washing my face, or whenever I'm in the bathroom, I guess, it takes literally no energy for me to look over and read their quotes and repeat them in my head. And I think what that does is it cultivates a sense of self-confidence and self-love that a lot of times we forget about when we are depressed. Another thing I also thought about was that if you really don't want to pay for affirmation cards, then totally also just Google inspiring and motivating quotes and write them on Post-its and just post them on your mirror. Like, that's what I remembered this in a therapy session, actually, where I was talking to my therapist about how stressed I was in grad school and I didn't feel like I had any time to myself. So then she asked me, what are some things that you like doing? And I didn't have a lot on my mind at the time, so all I could tell her was, I love Friends. I love watching the show Friends. Before my busy day in grad school, she recommended that I wake up, I make a nice breakfast for myself, and then I go watch one episode of Friends. Especially when you're feeling super depressed and anxious, I feel like doing something like that really calms you down and lets you start off the day in the way that you want to. Like, I know there are so many other videos on morning routines that are telling you to get up, work out, and do all these things, but I think it's even more important to start your day in the way that makes you happy. It doesn't have to be anyone else's definition of happiness or productivity. I think me watching Friends at that point really added to my productivity. Sorry. My point is that start your day the way you want to start it. Don't have someone else's blueprint morning routine as yours. Just do you.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question: suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? Special guest, Dr. Kurt, as well as DUANE Draughon. DUANE, pick back up, brother. Thank you for letting me get in that break. Go ahead, King.
Okay, and I'll try to speed it up.
No, you don't have to go fast. Just take your time. We got time. Take your time.
So what happens is I go through this devotional thing, and it's either gospel music. Actually, I got that from Isabel. The gospel music. I listen to African house music, and I actually have actual house music. White boy house music. They just be right. Like, they got high energy, and they just do you right. And so I listen to that, and then I go into, I have a Tony Robbins Prime. It's like a 15, 20-minute process where the first section is gratitude. You go right in, you close your eyes, and you think about some of the things that you've done dope. And one of the biggest problems that we have is we're navigating this world, and we're forgetting that we've been winning the whole freaking time. Right. Like, we forget we're winners. Like, we're so focused on losing, or we're down, or we're taking L's, or like even just things you're dealing with in life, but you forgot that, hell, you're only standing right now because you winning in something. You were dope at something. We forget that. So I go through that process. That's about 5 minutes. I go through a healing process. Okay, hey, get the light, get the energy, get God's power, get all that garbage out of me, heal me. Then, hey, use that energy to heal my friends, heal my family, heal everybody, even people I haven't met yet. You mean, let's start healing them. I get that out, and then I go into a process where I start visualizing the future. You know what I mean? Like, I got one where my wife and I were sitting in this brand new airplane that I just bought, and I'm about to hit the gas to take off on the runway, and I dap her like, you ready to go, B? You know what I mean? Like, we ready to go? You know what I mean? We're in our brand new airplane. You know what I mean? I have one where we were on vacation, and we just recently pulled this one off. I had one where we're visualizing, we're sitting down on this deck, and the water is going up under the deck, and we're on vacation. Hell, for our last year anniversary, or 20-year anniversary, we were in the Maldives chilling. Like, I mean, it actually happened.
Nice.
You know what I mean? The family vacations, I actually hear the sounds of my kids laughing and joking and talking trash to each other. We actually pull those things off and have those events. So you got to create that visualization of what you want in life too. And that's my routine every morning. Like, if in 7 days a week, it has to happen at least 4 or 5. I don't really do it much on the weekends because I'll lay in bed and hang. That's my time to sort of just lay around and chill in the morning. I still go to work on Saturdays and Sundays, but I'll slowly get up to the world on the weekends. On the weekdays, I'm on the grind. Boom, 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 gone and get it. And then what I started doing is, if the day gets too stressful, I'll like my office staff will see, where's he going today? I will just pack up, grab my shit, and I'll go walk. There's a park over by my office. I mean, an all-out freaking nature trail. I'll just walk the trail. It'd be 1 o'clock. I just walk the trail midday. And because what happens is, you got to get back into the present moment. And that's what fixes everything, is because when you realize that nothing's bad happening in this present moment, if you can get yourself back to that, you good. And that's the hard part about pulling this off. That's why the routine's important.
No, I love it. I know, Dr. Kurt, I'm pretty sure you want to jump in. I know you do this work and teach a lot of men these same things. Let me jump to this caller here. For anybody out there that wants to get in, 646-787-1691. You can call in, ask a question, tell us your story. All right, area code 501, last 3793. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and give us your 3 cents or your question this morning. Go ahead. 501, you live. All right, going once. 501. You're live on the air. Are you still with us?
Oh man. Hey, what's up? What's up, brother? This is Chris James. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, brother? You trying to get in on this thing with us this morning?
Yeah.
Jump in.
I hit 501. I'm like, I think that's me. Okay. But thanks for having me in, man. Great conversation. I just want to speak briefly on the routine piece, and just really second a lot of the things that the brothers are saying. What's up, big bro, Dr. Kurt? So as it relates to that routine, man, I completely agree. You know, I think most times what happens with people is our day is in many ways controlling us, right? Because, you know, we get up and we're rushing to get things done, and we're just forced to be in go mode the entire time. So something that has that has completely shifted my life and the way I show up in my performance is I make sure I wake up, you know, probably an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours before I gotta do things that I'm obligated to do. Right, so I'm up way before my wife. Like I wake up maybe, you know, between 6 and 7 a.m. and then I will slowly drink my tea. I will slowly, you know, listen to my podcast, and you know, so I'm able to just kind of move in a way that I desire to. So now I am in control of my day almost on every day. And then when I make that bed, you know, I feel even better too, because now I'm like, man, I've had time to do things that I desire to do at my own time and pace. But again, it just puts me in control, and that routine, man, has really shifted my life over the last 2 years. So that's what I add to the table, man. I just encourage people to get up early and get control of their day and get ahead of the day.
No, I love that concept, Chris. Thank you for the call, brother. I don't know if you heard him, Dr. Curdy was shouting you out, but thank you again.
Yeah,
for
I did.
And I love that idea, you know, in a sense, it lets you control your day, because I agree to it, you know, just personally, that, yeah, your day will control you if you never figure out how to get a handle on the time you want to add to it. Go ahead, Dr. Kurt. Your thoughts on
Yeah, I
everything.
agree. Yeah, what's up, brother? Chris James, man. Love you, bro. Thank you for that. Yeah, man, my number one prescription for all men, regardless of the age, is to work out regularly, period. I'm not even committed to doing business with brothers who don't work out. If you don't put your physical health and wellness at the forefront, then I already know that our partnership is going to be questionable. So one of the things that I do is work out on a regular, 5 out of 7 days, moving the body. Part of the morning routine is preparing to work out. That's the game changer. You can have $1 million, but if you're not healthy enough to really live a life that you love, then what's the point? I don't grind. There is no such thing as grinding for me. I'm not working long hours. I'm way past that. But at 52, my number one priority is staying in shape, using the full capacity of my lungs, being able to walk up the stairs, bend over and tie my shoe without, losing my breath, being able to enjoy a healthy sex life, walk, work out, lift weights, travel, hike. Those things are important to me now, right, regardless of the bank balance, right? And I didn't need to wait for a big health scare to get that. I just chose that was immediately in my control. Whether you got a gym membership or not, you can always use your body and gravity to do some work. So part of my morning routine is preparing to leave out of the house at 6:30 to go meet that trainer, and he's already leaning on the treadmill waiting for me. The 30 minutes prior to him, I've prayed, meditated, done my breath work, eaten my apple, taken my supplements, made my bed, I brushed my teeth, put on my compression pants, pulled out of the garage, and go work out. When I come back from the gym, it's about 8:30. I'm already at the cause of my day, not the effect, the cause. The day has been won at 8:30 in the morning. I have won my day. Everything else is a bonus. And so the routine is a lifesaver for me by taking care of my body first. Then the mind and the emotionality part is easy to follow at that work, right? Most brothers are working, I got to do this for my mind. The body is weak. When the body is weak, it creates unnecessary demands and worries that literally drain the life out of lots of people. So I'll pause right there.
No, I love it. You're pointing out some major stuff. Also consistent with Dr. Gerald Hassel, or Dr. G, as we call him, had him on the show before, and something that he always highlights, which is really in the same remnants as what you're saying right now, Dr. Kurt, is the number one goal is longevity. And Dr. G is highlighting and pointing out that that starts with physically being here, so therefore you must be physically healthy, because with longevity you can right whatever issues you're having mentally, or you haven't learned to let go of the past, or you're still holding on to some traumas, and you're dreading the future because of your past. If you're here, if you're physically here, there's always a chance to change your trajectory. So therefore the number one goal is longevity. So he absolutely I think he's 30 years in the psychology game, if I recall his experience, and he starts with physical health as well. And DUANE, I know you're an advocate for being physically healthy as well, and have went on a weight loss journey before I did, and I've lost 25 pounds here recently or whatever, and you've been encouraging me 100% along the way, because hear it loud and clear. Again, I'm just reiterating what these professionals talk about. Dr. G says, all things, longevity is the goal, which makes so much sense for anything that you want to accomplish. if you hear, like Dwayne is saying now, the only time is now. So if you're good now and you're set up to be here for the long term, you can have a great trajectory regardless of what your past has been. So I love all those thoughts. I wanted to throw my little 3 cents in before we go to this next break. We'll continue the conversation. Anybody else that wants to get in like Chris did, 646-787-1691. You do have to press 1 to let us know you want to speak. We'll be right back. Well, all I ask is that you think.
Hey, are you a wine drinker? A little bit here and there, but my wife definitely loves hers. Why you ask? Man, you got to try this vegan wine by Sip and Share Wine. I ran across them at this event in Atlanta, and now I keep me a few bottles at the house. What flavor you like? I like me a good red or maybe a nice Zinfandel or something. You know what I'm saying? Okay, try this sweet red first. Okay, that's nice and smooth right there. Yeah, that's kind of sweet like I like it. You know what I'm saying? For sure, that's why I like that one as well. Hey, now try this Conjure Zinfandel. This one was featured in Forbes magazine as a top 10 drink for the summer. See what you think. Oh, okay. Now that's fire right there. Where can I get a bottle of that? Just go to sipandsharewines.com. They'll ship it right to your door. They black owned too. Oh yeah? Okay, you said what? Sipandsharewines.com? Is that it? Yep. Bad.
For me, I tend to wake up sometime around 6 a.m., 6:30, and I write down the time in which I woke up. The second thing I do after I wake up is I make a beeline for sunlight. So getting outside for a 10-minute walk or a 15-minute walk is absolutely vital to mental and physical health. We get back, I purposefully delay my caffeine intake to 90 minutes to 120 minutes after I wake up. So for me, I just drink water. I also put a little bit of sea salt in the water. And I also drink my athletic greens, which is compatible with fasting. So I don't eat anything until about 11 a.m. or 12 noon. Next, I would do a 90-minute bout of work. And that's typically phone off and out of the room. You'd be amazed how much you can get done in 90 minutes if you are focused. After I finish, I do some form of physical exercise for about an hour. Very last, but certainly not least, deliberate cold exposure. And that's what I do each morning, and I'm certain that these tools work.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question: suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? I have DUANE DRAUGHon on with me. I think we just lost Dr. Kurt, so hopefully he'll get back in here with us or whatever.
Yeah, I'm still here, brother.
Okay, I still got you. Okay, got you. Okay, I thought I lost you. Okay, got you. Perfect. All right. And so that, what you just heard was Andrew Huberman, another podcast that I like to follow personally or whatever. He goes real deep into neuroscience and things of that nature. And he highlighted one aspect. And again, all these different routines, DUANE gave his routine, Chris gave his. We're hearing Andrew, the cuts I played in earlier in the show just highlighted. And I like what she said in the sense of, figure out what works for you. So again, you don't have to take any of this as advice to you or follow someone else's routine. We're just giving you different aspects, and clearly high achievers are having results as they continue to explain or you hear these things. The one thing that I wanted to point out in Huberman's, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Dr. Kurt, and he talked about getting into sunlight. And so, and DUANE gets into nature, and nature reminds him you're in the presence. So if you could just highlight that effect from a psychological standpoint on your body internally by getting into sunlight is something that Huberman highly suggests for your early morning routine. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I like to spend as much time out under the sun as possible for a variety of reasons. I also take long walks, power walks twice a week, 5.2 miles. I'm on the way actually after this episode. Those are some things. And then there's grounding, right? Walking barefoot on the grass in my backyard. So in addition to the previous routine that I described and work it out, I employ those three things on a regular, allowing myself to sun gaze and sunbathe, vitamin D, spiritual reasons, acknowledging the ancestors and just gaining strength, grounding myself through the electromagnetic charge of the natural earth, and then walking, listening to the birds chirp and watching the squirrels, and really just staying present while I'm, getting my heart rate up. Those are the three things that I employ. Absolutely, and I would suggest that for anybody. Absolute game changers. You said it, man. Just the quality of life, right? The being here. Both my parents died before they turned 70. My mom was 64. My dad was 69. I made a personal mission. When you do the numbers, it's not that long, right? I'm like, man, like from the time I was born, I only had them for 39 and 42 years, right? And now I'm 52, and I made a commitment to myself, my children, and my community that I'm going to do everything in my absolute living power every single moment to be here for the long haul.
No, I love it. And again, for anybody out there listening, if your day feels like or seems like you don't have time to get out in nature, take the time, as you hear both of these high achievers also curating and helping and mentoring other people to get into the space. If your day and your thoughts are, I don't know or have time, not only are you hearing the value from, in a sense, our guest, but I would also like both of you to kind of, and I'll go with you, DUANE, break down, do you recall initially getting into this routine that you now swear by? I can't imagine that it, like the one I just played, Huberman explained his morning. I think I'm going to try to do some of his things personally. It's just something that I want to, some things that he said, or, like mine, that I didn't know about the get out in the sunlight thing. I'm just now hearing that. So that's, something I'm going to actually add to my routine, if you will. But as much as you're both highlighting your routines, DUANE, can you talk about what it took to become a routine? You know what I mean? You've talked about your story of being down in the first hour all the way down to being suicidal. What was coming out of it and finding a routine? You say it saved your life, but I know you didn't just jump into the routine that you're bragging about right now. Talk about that process, if you will.
Montoya, one of the things about understanding the routine was allowing myself to even understand the routine. The first problem, and I actually saw somebody posted on Facebook last week, and she said something that actually was an aha moment for me, is that it just be happy and enjoy the joy that you feel, okay? So one of the things that when I had my awakening that I still remember like yesterday is that I was in my cousin's house in Dallas is where I went to UPW. The last day I woke up, I heard the birds chirp and I heard the sun. I saw the sunlight, and it was just a beautiful morning. Like, it was just dope. And my brain went right back, man, don't look at that shit. You know what I mean? Life is bullshit. It's chaos. You got to deal with this. You broke. You don't have no money. You don't come out here with this happy joy shit. You still got to deal with this eviction, blah, 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 blah. And then it was the other side of the brain said, stop. Just enjoy that. Listen to the bird chirp, man. Watch the sunlight and look at those trees. Like, as I'm even telling you, I got my eyes closed and I'm just remembering that moment, how beautiful it was. And it was having the ability to understand that that's more important in life than anything else that you're dealing with. So the more you start learning that, having that solitude and having that time to yourself and enjoying the sunlight, enjoying the trees, listening to the birds, you know what I mean, watching the sunlight come up as you're going to work and looking at all the different colors of the sky. It's one of the dope things about being a pilot. I see some stuff up there that's so dope I can't even take a picture of it. You know what I mean? Like, especially right now, it's falls. I'm seeing the leaves change color, and I don't see it looking out my window. I see it in a whole freaking neighborhood. You know what I mean? 3, 4, 5 miles out, I can see all the trees' colors, and you just can't get photos of that. It's just beautiful. And just being understanding that you can enjoy that to a level that creates happiness in your life, because that is really what life is for. It's to live these experiences, not to live this. And I'm going to let you guys go on this one real fast. One thing I've learned about the life that most of us are living, one, Stress is addictive. It's addictive. The drama is addictive. Every TV show you watch has a drama about it. Everything you see on Facebook, especially our black community, one of the things when you listen to the Breakfast Clubs and all that shit, it's always some freaking drama. And so that drama is an addiction that we're used to. If we don't relate to that drama, we don't even think we're living real life. One of the parts about getting into that normal routine is understanding that you got to sort of separate yourself from that drama. And that drama is not normal life. That drama is spinning you backwards, and it's actually destroying your life more and more, even listening to that drama. Listening to the drama is even hurting you too, because what you consume is who you become. You got to switch the music. You got to switch the books that you read. You even got to switch your friends that you got if you want to get to another level of success.
Listen to mental dialogue.
Especially when Dwayne's on.
No doubt. Dr. Kurt, if you can add to what you're hearing here again, we're hearing it from Dwayne's real life experience as a long-time entrepreneur. You, again, can not only coming from your life experience, but you're in the clinical space. So what is a lot of what he's saying? The one thing that stood out to me was just when he highlighted, being up in the plane and seeing things you can't take pictures of. I know sometimes when I intentionally go on trips or in nature, I'm not a big picture taker. I'll definitely take some pictures just to highlight that I've been there. But I literally intentionally, most of my life, have not taken the pictures because I want to imprint the picture of what I'm seeing in my mind to always have it carry with me. Just a little small thing that I thought about as he highlighted that. But go ahead, Dr. Kurt.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always had a level of discipline. So, I've been on this personal development space journey for more than 30 years. So for me, there was some basic foundation things in place. What I realized is that not having money was the least of the challenges, right? Most of the people, unless they're over 50, their biggest challenge is lack of income, right? Then they get some more games, some more years behind them, and then they realize, like, oh, you got to brace yourself. Oh, there's some things that's coming that money ain't going to be able to address. And so I started off by making one new promise to myself a day as part of my healing journey, whatever that was. And I created a routine that felt good, that became natural, and that I look forward to doing every day. And so what I know from serving thousands of black men, black families, black people in general, is that you build up this resilience, this tolerance, this emotional capacity to support yourself regardless of what's happening outside of you, right? You will be okay with no money coming in for 150 days, right? You will. How do I know? I ain't read that in the book. I've actually done that plenty of times, right? You will recover. The point is being here, as you said, Brother Montoya, right? Being able to sustain the emotional withdrawals that starts to cause physical harm, mental harm, relational harm, right? And a routine will help that. A routine will save your life in that regard. Can a morning routine help save your life? It absolutely will. I encourage people to don't listen to ideas about other people's routine. Try some things that become naturally feeling good, whether that's going outside in the morning or praying. There's a lot of things to do, right? There's a lot of things to do. You owe it to yourself to come up with a routine that really reminds you of who you are and why you came in. Your purpose will come as a result of routine. Lots of people are like, I'm struggling with my purpose, because capitalism has trained them that their purpose is tied to their occupation and how they derive income. Not necessarily. Come up with that routine and watch your purpose naturally surface for you, whatever that is. Your purpose will be found in your routine if, in fact, you are still not clear about it. And I want to end with a few things on just the benefits of having a routine and how it could save your life. It'll help build daily habits. It'll help you process emotions. It'll help you develop and keep and sustain a growth mindset. It'll help you with gratitude. It'll help you with self-kindness, self-care, and self-compassion. And it'll help reduce the screen time, right? I've never picked up my phone first thing in the morning in more than a decade. Never. I don't allow the outside world to come in until I've taken good care of myself. right? Because if you do, again, you will find yourself at the cause of your day, at the effect of your day, and not the cause, if you allow the outside world to come in before you prepared yourself.
Man, I appreciate these amazing gems that are laying out. Again, if you think about, again, this morning's discussion question, suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? You're not hearing just the advice. You're hearing brothers with real life experience that have actually spanned this actual spectrum and now sharing with how they help others and how they personally have done the work, currently are still doing the work, and hopefully picking up these seeds. I love how Dr. Kurt says, hey, don't just listen to other people's routines. Find what makes sense for you. The cut earlier in the show said, do you, but be intentional about getting away from, quote unquote, the rat race, if you will. Speaking of, you guys keep highlighting, I think it's UPW, if I'm saying it correctly. I want to highlight Dr. G's men's retreat down in Puerto Morales, Mexico. I'm going to play that, and anybody that, if you're trying to figure it out, or you want to take some of the steps that you're saying, or if you're just in a situation right now, Dwayne always talks about how he took that trip at a time, as he just told us earlier in the show, facing his sixth eviction, having to Uber, having priorly scaled a $1 million business, and clearly in a situation where that was not the case. He was in one of those lows, and he took a chance and went on a retreat focusing on himself, came back with a different mindset, and is now on the trajectory that we see now. I will highlight Dr. G. If you haven't heard him on this show, I would highly recommend anybody in that space take a chance. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, where all I ask is that you think.
Psychologist Dr. Gerald Hassel and Omar Buckner, founders of Self-Mastery Retreats International, is proud to present a transformative experience specifically designed by Black men for Black men. This immersive retreat offers a unique opportunity for Black men to forge deep bonds, enhance their personal growth, and empower themselves to create positive change in their lives, families, and communities. For 5 days in the sacred surroundings of Puerto Morales, Mexico, a select group of powerful Black men will embark on a journey of self-discovery, creating a safe and supportive space to share their experience and build a strong sense of community. This trip will truly transform your life and takes place February the 15th through 19th, 2024. If interested, text Self-Mastery to 678-548-2456. Again, that is Self-Mastery to 678-458-2456 to receive a direct link for the retreat. Shout out to Kazimde over at Black Dot Culture Center and Bookstore. Thanks for carrying Re-Education of the Negro, Necessary Conversations on Race, Sex, and Culture. That's my new book. If you enjoy conversations like we have here every Saturday on the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, be sure to pick up my book so you and your family can engage in authentic dialogue. They can learn to navigate the African American experience. Also, while you're at Black Dot, make sure you grab a cup of Ethiopian coffee, and my favorite, the smoked salmon croissant. Visit Black Dot Cultural Center and Bookstore at 6984 Main Street, Lithonia, Georgia 30058. Tell them Mental Dialogue sent you.
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question, suicidal to high achiever, can a morning routine save your life? Again, highly encourage anybody that's out there feeling it, take a shot, go out to Puerto Morales with Dr. G. And special guest here, Dr. Kurt and DUANE DRAUGHon, highlighting my book, Re-Education of the Negro. If I could, fellas, I would like to share a quick excerpt from my book. This is exactly how you use my book. You share these excerpts with others and have a dialogue. I think with this excerpt from Re-Education of the Negro will fit to a degree in today's conversation. So I'll read it, and Dr. Kurt, I'll have you just give me your thoughts to this commentary. My commentaries are entitled by Black Socrates Speaks. This one is called Life is Relentless. As a quote, I shall finish the game. That quote is from Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid in the Young Guns movie. All right. Master this and you will succeed. Daily discipline guarantees your success, or lack thereof guarantees your failure. Life is fair this way. To live the life you truly desire, you must do the things you know you need to do, typically for much longer than you anticipated. With consistency, you will eventually reach the point of no doubt, which is precisely when the universe will deliver. Your wishing it will happen is not enough. Therefore, your faith is exhibited by staying the course daily without seeing the results of your work immediately. The payoff is later. In the big scheme of things, this is precisely how we should want life to be. Never languish under the relentlessness of life, because we are equipped with an indomitable spirit to outlast any ups or downs life may bring. Just my 3 cents. All I ask is that you think. Dr. Kurt?
Yeah, that sums it up. I mean, discipline is everything. Discipline is your ability to lead and follow yourself, all right? And that is the antidote for a lot of things. Most people are doing discipline. We all have a certain level of discipline doing something, whether it's by default going down an adverse path or not. But the ability to lead and follow yourself. One of the best ways that I know, and thank you for that quote, Brother Montoya, is to start off by making one promise a day to yourself and building on that. Today I'm making my bed. Today I'm waking up at 6. Today I'm drinking a bottle of water. Today I'm going to work out. One promise and commit, and watch how that changes. Watch how that provides you with a level of self-compassion, self-care, and self-kindness that, frankly, no one else or the world as a whole will be able to give you. Outside of that, that is the gift that keeps on giving. You got to find it through a routine.
I love that promise a day. And I just got hit with this a couple of days ago, and again, the universe always delivers gems to me as I'm preparing or getting ready for shows. I didn't even know I was going to use this on the show, but you said it a couple of times, Dr. Kurt, that promise a day to yourself. And when you started highlighting, it could be something as simple as make my bed as my promise to myself today. But I forgot. I wish I could give credit to whoever said this to me just either yesterday or earlier this week. But somebody said, the biggest issue with ourselves and our own assessment of how we see ourselves, or if we've, in a sense, lost the habits of having the willpower or the discipline necessary, knowing, maybe you hadn't achieved what you wanted to achieve. A big part of the issue in your life is you're the only person that know all the times you lied to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know all of your lies.
Yeah.
And so when you say you're going to start something, deep down, you remind yourself, you're not going to do that because of all the other times you failed yourself or you've lied to yourself, or you've lost the muscle, if you will. And so that's why I love that promise a day. If you get to your point, if you can make a promise on something small, you build the muscle to regain the discipline that will keep the willpower going much longer than once you're tired or if you're out of shape. And this reminds me of when you talked about the longevity and physical, why you are adamant that your people that come to you are physically fit or they get into shape. Because like when we all think of like greatness, Kobe Bryant's my favorite player of all time, and think of the Michael Jordans of the world or whatever. And for as great as they are, the one thing that they mastered most was being in the best shape of all of their peers. And the reason, so what we saw as greatness because they performed at the most pivotal moments, but if you ask them, and I've watched probably every video Kobe's ever did or whatever, that's my guy. But if you ask them what that was, what looks like a bigger or better achievement at the end of the game when it's fourth quarter, it matters, and everybody's. What it is they're just in shape to do this, to perform the exact same in the fourth quarter as they performed in the first quarter. It's
Absolutely.
Not even that they're stepping up; they're just still in shape to perform the same whereas everyone else is tired just a little. They didn't even do nothing phenomenal. They're just still doing it the same in the fourth quarter, and in that moment, it looks phenomenal. So that's why the
good point.
The Olympic team was so blown away when Kobe set the stage for them. LeBron learned that work ethic from Kobe when they first go there, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get up early and go." And Kobe had already had full workout, ice on his knees, and was famous for going on 40-mile bike runs because Kobe understood, I just need to be in shape when everybody else is tired. And that's how willpower works in our minds as well. It's a reason why you wake up with the energy and more willpower in the morning. If you put something off later in the day and you're like, oh, I didn't have the willpower. No, you don't understand physicality and the fact that you're just tired. And then it's not that others have more willpower. They're taking advantage of a morning routine and getting a lot done when the willpower is already the highest. Dwayne, jump in real quick, brother. I'm sorry, or whoever wants to jump in.
Hey, Montoya, let me hit you with this before we run out of time. But one of the things that you'll notice, too, is, and everybody could do this, but as you are listening to this show and you get done with this show and you start understanding how important the mindset and things need to be, start listening to, like, different YouTube videos and different shows. As a matter of fact, start listening to a lot of the high achievers and high powerful people. You will notice that every single one of them who are highly successful has done it from the mindset game. And they'll, like, even down to the Jay-Z's and all them, they'll tell you that as you hear them speak, you'll hear it's words that believe, visualization, doing the routine, doing that thing. I had to wake up one morning. I had to do this. You will start hearing those jewels. That's what happened to me. When I had my awakening, I started listening. I'm like, damn, Jay-Z been rapping about this from the beginning of time. Puffy's been talking about this. You mean all of them were talking about this very thing that we're even having this conversation about today. Like, everybody's chasing the bag, chasing the bag, chasing the bag. It's that solitude is what you need to be chasing.
No, I love it. Dr. Kurt, again, you do this work in real life. So you have programs yourself, so please highlight for how people can work for you. I know obviously here in the Atlanta area, but hey, we in the online era now, so I'm pretty sure you can help people across the country as well. But let's go ahead and highlight and tell them about some of your work, if you will, or what, and some of the programs that you have.
I will. Thank you. One of the things that, when you hear a lot about, particularly in the business world, when it comes to accumulating wealth, you hear a lot about the mindset space, right? And what the part we don't add is there's some things that we have to let go. There is some blockages in the mind. There's a healing component that must be addressed before you can let in new information. As you mentioned, but people struggle with making promises to themselves because they were people who raised them, in a lot of instances, broke promises. People lie to themselves because they've been lied to, right? Let's be clear, right? So there is some psychological, emotional things that are in the way of people beginning to work on their mindset. I know people who read avidly. They haven't done the healing work. Mindset can't serve them. Right, they got to do the healing. They have to remove the blockages to let the new information in. Otherwise, they just accumulating information, right? Continuing to go through those same hurdles. So that's the work that I do with high performers. Because once my high performers that I'm blessed to work with, once they get the money, then they're exposed. Money makes you more of what you are and what you haven't addressed. So once they get the bank balance to where they want, then they get exposed. Right? And then the work is what's in my way? What's my blind spots? And that's the work that I do now, right? I do it in a number of ways. I do it from a consultant coaching standpoint. I do it one-on-one, family. And my most recent venture is working with high performers twice a month, doing my mastermind mindset mental wellness group, of which I'm starting in about 15 days, working only with high performers and soon-to-be high performers. This is my way of developing a unique program where we get to meet in groups, learn from each other, similar to a space like this, leave with some solutions, right? We talk a lot about it. Lead with some solution, some practices, a network in a community so that we can really level up. So it may not be money for you. It may be physical. It may be sexuality. It may be spirituality. It may be a number of things. We are going to address it all. That's my newest space. Of course, I have several books out there. You can go to my website, www.drcurtisdjasper.com. I'm only open to working with people who are naturally led to me, right? This is not a solicitation to be well known. I'm at a point in my life and my career, I'm looking for who's looking for me.
I love it. I love it. We got about 45 seconds, Dwayne, if you want to say anything or share any information before we go. Thank you, both of you, so much for an amazing show.
Bro, thanks for having me on the show. Even when you called me this morning, I was like, I don't want to go down this path. But I was like, something, the universe said that, hey, you need to go down this path. And I hope somebody who's listening, I hope this information can help them not jump off a ledge too, because that's really important.
Yeah, but I want to personally thank you live on the air for Black Men Behind the Lines. It's still working wonders for me. Got my first opportunity to go to Grand Canyon. That was on my bucket list, and I did it with you, brother. So thank you so much. See y'all next Saturday. All I ask is that you think.
At Kroger, we know the minute a tomato is picked off the vine, the fresh timer starts. The sooner we get our produce to you, the fresher it is. That's why we've completely overhauled our process to shorten the time from harvest to home for our tomatoes, strawberries, and salads. Because we know how much you love fresh produce, we give you more time to enjoy your tasty fruits and veggies at home. So whether you're shopping in-store, picking up, or prefer delivery, we're committed to bringing you the freshest produce possible. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.